We're
I'm
live.
with music at? With the intro
Welcome,
at?
welcome, welcome to Two Brothers and an Idea. You're here with Ferdinand and you're here with Teton. We got an
Yes.
idea for you today. We're going to be talking about what is a real man. This is the last episode of our 3 episode series on what is a real man. And we're going to be focusing today on early manhood to the elderly age, the challenges, the solutions, what we go through, and how we go through it, how we maneuver manhood. My brother Teton is here with us. What's going on, Teton?
Man, look at here, man. It's been one day. It's been a good day. I would be foolish to complain, but I'm grateful, man, and I appreciate the opportunity to continue to have these conversations. Something that's new, something that was spontaneous, and I'm just looking forward for the engagement and some of the feedback and interaction with some of those who've been listening and participating in this conversation.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the feedback too. I want to give a big shout out to Virginia. I want to give a big shout out to New York, DC, Chicago,
Yeah,
Miami, San
yeah.
Francisco, LA, Tokyo, Uganda. No, I want to give a shout out to the whole world, right? We talking to the brothers today, right? I've been a man for many years now, and there's been many, many challenges that I faced. Challenges in socioeconomics, challenges in the workplace, challenges at home.
Right.
Um, it's like a never-ending journey of different challenges that you face, and you just keep having to maneuver your way through. Is that kind of like what your journey's been like?
Well, I think uh, one of the things I found success in is just taking some time and appreciating self care. Um, a lot of times we hear self care is mostly something that women will do, get their hair, nails done, all that kind of wonderful thing. But for me, I just enjoy flying drones. I enjoy just sitting on the patio, man, and just reading a nice book. And just that time alone to reset, to navigate through my thoughts, a little meditation, sit there with the word a little bit and just kind of process through my day. I mean, sometimes the reset for me is the best thing because when I know that I'm at a low point, right? I'm physically tired, emotionally tired. That's probably the bad time to have not a good time to have serious conversations or to engage socially, but the me time, the relief time, it's always special, man. Getting in touch with nature, going in the park and enjoying the walk of the park and the sound of the wind. There's nothing wrong with that, man. So I really enjoy that quiet time, that reset.
I think that's really important. That self-care, definitely having that reset. We've got to sit down, we got to meditate, we got to think, we've got to decompress.
Oh yeah.
There's an analogy that someone talked to me about. They were saying that if you take a bucket of silt water, like water, 5-gallon bucket, silt water in it, and you
Uh-huh.
put it in the back of a truck, you go for a drive, it gets shaken up, right? And then that water is real muddy and murky and all that, right? But then
Yeah.
when the truck stops and you put the bucket on the ground, you let it sit there for 10, 15 minutes,
Uh-huh.
all the silt moves down to the bottom and the water becomes clear, right? So clear that you can see all the way down to the bottom, right? But I think that our thinking is aligned with that metaphor.
Okay, that's an idea. It's a good idea. That's a good idea. So do you think it's important for men to uh, create a safe space for other men, right? Most of the time, we're left alone to talk to compartmentalize, to have conversations outside of that real men fellowship. And I think real fellowship requires relationship and quality time, right? I'm not talking about no bro time where y'all going on vacations. I ain't graduated that yet. Going on bro vacations. I ain't got there yet. But just to have fellowship with brethren, to be able to ask
You ain't trying to do
questions.
you ain't trying to do the banana boat with LeBron.
But to be able to be
The
in
hot dog
fellowship,
boat.
with the elders, to be around young men, and it's always a good opportunity to continue, as we always keep saying. We want to learn, we want to grow, continue to sustain the beautiful things that we have, and that is our family, that is our children, that is most important to us. And so that's where I find value in the me time, the self care, and the self reflection, and appreciating the work, because sometimes we don't even appreciate ourselves, right? Appreciate the dedication, the commitment, the focus. And so there's always opportunities, man, to really enjoy yourself as a young man, as an older man, and as an elder, uh, who's been around for some time.
I would agree. When you think about it, as a young man,
Uh huh.
we all kind of go through some type of rites of passage to cross
Okay.
that threshold of young, maybe a teenager to
Yeah.
manhood, right? So for
Yeah.
some of us, maybe it's college. For others, maybe it's the military. For others, it might be the streets, and then for others, it may be prison, right?
Uh-huh.
But what can you kind of tell us about that transition from being a teenager to stepping into manhood?
Well, one of the things that I find, and I repeat this a lot, and that's being able to have a point of reference, right? Being able to have a relationship with a parent, being able to have an opportunity to communicate and express yourself and share what's on your heart, right? A lot of times we don't spend enough time talking to our young people. We don't spend enough time sitting with our children and just enjoying the moment. A lot of our days are transactional, right? Mom and dad, somebody's going to work, somebody's going to get their eyelashes done, somebody's going to, doing something. The door is constantly moving in. You got to take the kids this way, you got to take the kids that place. And so the quality time is what was special for me growing up. And as I mentioned previously, I spent a lot of time with both my parents. I never made mention of my mother. My mother, she had us in church, and I really enjoyed those formative years. Um, but what comes to mind through the process for me is the disciplines of a godly man, right? A righteous man. And sometimes that doesn't just happen overnight, right? There is a process, and there are some life lessons that we journey through, whether it's from finding your identity to finding, managing your self-esteem and your self-worth, right? We don't talk enough about a lot of that. Being able to address some of the childhood traumas and getting the appropriate counseling. And so I don't know about you, but I think when you get counseling services, you get an opportunity, man, to really express and let loose and let out a lot of that anger, a lot of that pain. You begin to find the root of many of your problems. And I don't even understand, Ferdinand, why we in many sects of our community neglect our health and neglect our mental health.
Well, that's a great observation. Because I would say that that's definitely a fact that many of us kind of push our mental health to the side. But I would also say that there's reason why there's reason, and we can explain why that happens.
Okay.
A lot of our brothers are out here. I would say that they're focused on being providers,
Right.
and maybe time management needs to improve, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, their heart is in the right place. They're focused on love for the family. They're focused on caring for the family and doing for the family. But there needs to be balance.
Right.
There needs to be an understanding of that self care, of that nurturing for self, of making sure that we preserve that self identity in a strong rooted foundation. of righteousness, of absolute truth. You know,
Absolutely.
so when we have that balance, I think that we do better, you know, for ourselves over time, you know, because we're going through stages, you know, from manhood to elderly age, and we've got to live in the reality that we do need to give of ourselves to those who we dedicate ourselves to, but we also need to be making sure that we're giving back to ourselves, doing for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that 100%, man. And so I know that we've been doing this podcast for it's a third show, right? Third conversation.
Third episode, yeah, blessings.
So where do people go to log in to find the podcast? I know there's a YouTube channel that has been set up to share some of this content. Can you direct the audience to either to the YouTube or how to share the content and what some future things that you do have in store for this group of conversations going in the future?
Absolutely. So it's two brothers and an idea is on FHTII YouTube, on Mate 7 Pro YouTube, on Mate 7 Pro Facebook, FHTII Facebook. I believe
Okay.
it's on Teton's Facebook. It's on Ferdinand's Facebook. It's on LinkedIn. We're on May 7 Pro Instagram. So yeah, we're on quite a few platforms. And Two Brothers and an Idea is about two righteous brothers coming together to bring a new idea of togetherness to the community. So this is what we're bringing, and we're coming to y'all every Tuesday and Thursday. Normally we come at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we had a really important meeting that ran over a little bit, and so you know we're here with you now. But from this point forward, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on so many different platforms.
Well, bro, topic today. We still stuck. We still standing with what is a real man, right? And we're talking about
What is a real man?
early manhood, and the elderly age. Well, some will stop counting how old they are and how they see their development of manhood. But I think uh, when you get to a place of understanding, a place of really, really walking in the leadership and the authority and the love and the compassion that we are designed to walk in and the instruction, I think we set the tone, not only in our homes, but in our communities. And so I made point mention the other day, Ferdinand, that I just personally believe that being a father and being a man, it's amazing, man. I love it. I wouldn't want it no other way. Um, I talk to my daughters and my children often, and so it just brings a lot of joy when you're sitting with your children and you're starting to see that your young men and your daughters are starting to really get the object lesson. Now, how did that feel as a young man in your journey, growing, learning, and really understanding who you were outside of the culture and what was happening during that time in the 90s and in the late 80s? What was that process like? Because I know you went from what straight into the military, or did you take some time to go to college before you went to the military?
Well, for me, the transition from being a teenager to being a man was it was rough. I dropped out of high school,
Hmm.
and then I decided to go back to high school, and then I got arrested, and
You got
like,
what?
yeah, I got into some trouble with
You
the
got arrested
police,
for, man?
and
Rolling your eyes.
you buddy, I got into some trouble with the police on Newport News. You know, they won't let you. They make you go to alternative school. So I finished at
Uh,
Enterprise, and so after that, finally got my high school diploma, and I get stabbed in a knife fight. And yeah.
when they fight with knives, man, where you from? England?
So
Who fight
yeah, man. So that all happens, and I
outside?
came to a
Outside?
you funny. I came to a conclusion after that because, like, it was bad, man. I had to go to the hospital. They had to check and make sure my kidney wasn't punctured and all that. So, I made a decision after that that I was turning my life around,
Okay.
and so at that point, my dad he took me to the pipe fitters union down the street,
How old were
and we
you then?
walked in. I was 18. Yeah, I
Wow.
was 18 years old. Walked me in there, said, "Listen, my son needs a job." I walked out with one, and which was dope. And shout out to my dad. Appreciate you for all that. And I was at the shipyard for a while. My first job with that company, I was helping build the Virginia Living Museum on J. Clyde Morris.
Wow.
And this is kind of like my transition into manhood. I go from these poor decisions that I was making, and when I'm working at the shipyard, I don't have no car, so I'm riding my bicycle from near Craft Elementary School. So I'm putting in some miles, but this is even through the wintertime. Raining, snowing, I'm still going to work. So
Right.
this is like my transition into manhood, and then the next step is media, and the next step after that is military. So I had it in phases.
So as we continue talking about these things, and I know sometimes these conversations can be drawn out a little bit. If you could think about some of the men that were important, some of the elders that were important in your life, and how they impact your development as a young man. I mean, you asked me that question a couple episodes ago, or was it last time? So I want to pick your brain and hear the names and some of the stories of the men that impacted your life.
My dad, by far, is the most important, impactful man in my life. I'm very thankful that he's still living and he's out here, still accomplishing his dreams all these years later. Has made it past 70 years old. So many blessings to my dad.
That's
Um, then when I get past my dad, I'm definitely thinking about my uncle Jerry. I'm also thinking about a really important mentor to me. His name is Andab Burhani.
okay.
And Andab Burhani is from Eritrea, but he's been in Louisiana for a very long time. He graduated from, I believe, LSU in etymology. And Andab Burhani owns Green Hand Nursery down in Baton Rouge. And I used to, while I worked at WBRZ News Channel 2, I used to volunteer at his nursery a couple of hours a day on the weekdays, and he was 75 years old when I was volunteering. All right, now check this out. All right, check this out. I was still an NCO in the army at that time, and
Okay.
this 75-year-old Eritrean man used to outwork me on the nursery, and he had no power tools. Right, so this is one of my mentors.
How did you manage to do that?
What's that?
How you manage to, how did he manage to outwork you at 75?
That's a great question. And those are the things that he showed me during my time with him. And I spent many, many months with Mr. Brahani. To this day, I have a high reverence for that man. My other one of the other guys who is super important in my life to this day, his name is Umar Bey. So Umar is also down in Baton Rouge. And
Okay.
Umar and Endop, both of them were my mentors down in Baton Rouge. Umar
Wow.
has his own school. Umar has his own bees and his own honey. He grows his own food. He
Okay.
when it comes down to somebody who is self-sustainable and doing right by his family, by his wife, like
Right.
Umar is that guy. And Umar has a traveling museum exhibit where he talks about
Now,
melanated inventors.
what is in that museum exhibit that that's very interesting that he would travel with it? Is he traveling with like fossils or historical relics, or what is that he travels with?
It's a traveling museum exhibit of melanated inventors,
Okay.
and he teaches the information himself. Then he
Okay.
also takes his traveling exhibit to Poverty Point every year, I believe
Hmm.
on Juneteenth. And if anyone who doesn't know about Poverty Point, it's one of the ancient indigenous structures here in America. It's in Northeast Louisiana, near the Mississippi River. And I
Okay.
believe the structures there were built around the time that the Great Aku was built in ancient Kemet.
Well, let's liven this conversation up, man. I think we have, prolonged it and belabored it with, the introduction and just kind of feeling things out. I'm really interested in engaging people and really talking about some of these things. There was a lot of conversation when I was coming up about fatherhood and family and community. But when I went overseas and I lived in Japan, and I was living in Japan about 10 years, what I found very fascinating when it came to the elders, as the topic is expressed, a lot of the elders, I think, did not get the reverence that you would normally think, or the respect that you would normally think. And even now, you look at our society and how the respect level, the honor, and I'm not talking about someone that you want to worship, but just the simple acts of kindness, respecting the elders, opening up the doors, and being kind. Do you still see that activity, or those behaviors normal, or they become abnormal, respecting our elders?
I still see elders being respected,
Uh,
but I would say that the intensity of it is lesser than it was in the past. You know,
okay.
when I was a young man, I saw. I mean, I'm still a young man. When I was a younger man,
You young man, you young man. Okay, I hear you.
I saw more
Mhm.
respect for the elders. You know, like the very few people I see. I don't see as many people saying sir or ma'am. You know, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. I don't see that as much. I do see it. I do hear it. It's just rare these days, and I think that makes sense, even though it doesn't make sense based on what we see in our society today.
Well, this conversation is must go to the next level. I know we got some guests coming in, or you sent the link out to some of your friends to kind of indulge in the conversation. Um, what were some of the feedback that you've received so far? And has people inquired about the healthy nuggets that you shared about how we should eat and have better diets, and taking care of ourselves?
I think that that's a growing conversation right now, and we got to give a lot of respect and a shout out to Dr. Sabi and his family for
Okay,
leading that charge.
that's what's up.
Um, yeah, because this is something that for a lot of our people, they're
Yeah,
being reintroduced to it again. Like this is, even though it's not new, for a lot of people, it is new, to
right.
them. So um, they've got to transition into that as they feel comfortable transitioning to it. Some people will transition into it this year, maybe next year, and then some it may take a few lifetimes, so it just really depends on the person. But what we focus on at Root Tribes is planting seeds. We're
Oh,
just focused on giving righteousness to our people, giving love, compassion, and empathy to them, and helping them to improve, as well as if they're suffering from something, have remission from those diseases.
okay, okay, okay. And so, as I'm sitting here right now, Fernand, um, and just reflecting on some of the things we're talking about, um, do you ever just get tired? Do you ever just get weary? Do you ever feel like at times the load is too much?
I do. Would you like to know what I do to handle that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm curious. I mean, because a lot of times, we get on these platforms, and as always, we provide a representative,
Yes.
and vulnerability in certain conversations really never fully come into fruition because maybe we're afraid to talk about certain things. So yeah, I would love to know some of those things, and maybe some of your listeners, some of the people that are interested in the topic would love to come up. You can send the link out. Maybe everybody can click on the link if you're interested in coming up on the screen or just chatting with us and giving your thoughts and perspectives. You're more than welcome to do so. This is Two Brothers and an Idea. And we're sitting here with Mr. Ferdinand, my right hand man, and we're talking about manhood and giving a individual perspective on the impacts of it. But most importantly, we're talking about the development, the childhood stage into your middle age, adulthood, some of the physical things that happen when you go from being 20s to your 30s, get into your 40s. And so being able to have a healthy mind, a healthy body, but most importantly, being able to be a righteous man, a faithful man, and a man that is committed not only to himself, but committed to his family and his children. So, sir, you got the floor. I anxiously wait the data that you download and share that can be very helpful to your audience and the audiences that are listening.
When I'm down, I think that meditation is a powerful tool.
Now,
Sitting
stop right
still.
there. Sorry there. When you hear the word meditation, right? There was a time where it was shunned upon. A lot of people didn't understand what it was, what it means, or you have people cut and paste it. So can you just kind of break down the benefits of meditation and what it does to your body, your mind,
Well,
and the health?
let me get into that in a second, right? So I'm gonna first I'm gonna go ahead and answer your first question. Um, when I'm down, one of the things that I focus on is meditation, and then from there, I focus on a vision, and that vision is of success and of triumph. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't even matter what I'm going through or how bad the situation is. I have the choice to choose a solution or to choose complaining or whatever it is that I choose to do, just like anyone else. Every one of us has the choice, but
Right.
I choose to win in my visions. And because I consistently construct these visions, it creates the awareness for whatever it is in my physical reality to fix whatever that problem is, right?
Mhm.
And that problem could just be me being down, like you were saying,
Right.
or that problem could be anything else. It doesn't even really matter what the problem is. The process is exactly the same. Now, in
Right.
addition to that, in addition to the meditation and the vision creation, because if I want those abilities to be strong,
Uh-huh.
then I have to be focused on my diet. I have to be focused on my sunlight intake and my water intake, my sleep, my exercise. I have to be focused on my goals, right? Because all of those in balance helps me to come back up, right? And then the vision and the meditation, all of that kind of pulls all the puzzle pieces together. So now I got a full picture of knowing exactly what to do to create a sustainable solution.
Touche. I get it. I think, for me, man, I've already mentioned, but can you just kind of unpack a little bit about the meditation? Because
Yes.
whether I subscribe to the totality of some of the things you're saying, I think there are people who may want to understand what it
Yes.
is, process of it, and just how it works for you.
Sure. So when we think about meditation, what we're really thinking about is giving our spirit man the ability to speak to us,
Right.
right? We're thinking of meditation is allowing us to go into that astral plane, to go into that spirit world, to go into the Akashic records, and to read the real book of life, right? The one of the only ways to read it, in my opinion, is meditation, right? Because we have to be still, we have to be quiet, and we have to let go of things to go in, right? And how meditation works is just like what I was talking about a little while ago with the still water.
Right.
And Once we sit and we're still for 10, 15 minutes,
Mhm.
well, we become clear. Now the neurons are able to fire off the way they're supposed to.
Wait.
Now the neural pathways are able to fire off the way they're supposed to, all because we have become
Hey,
clear.
Fernand, listen. Everybody who's watching this, brain don't process the same way your brain processes, right? You're saying neurons, you're seeing all these science words. Can you make it plain and simple for the seventh grader and the
Your,
99 year
your
old?
your thinking becomes very clear during meditation, and the solutions to all your problems become you become aware of them during meditation. But you have to know thyself and trust thyself for you to trust what you are receiving in visions during those meditations. They are the solution to every problem you've ever had in all of your lifetimes.
Well, what would you say if I say to you that the things that I'm listening to right now sounds like some script from the Wonder Twins, some X-Men stuff, some weirdo stuff. You all out left field somewhere. You all in the new age. You all in the weirdo space. How do you articulate to someone who may not believe in all of the things that you are sharing, uh, and maybe in opposition to it? How do you navigate that if it's a family member or a friend?
Sure. There's a book by Dr. Joseph Murphy. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. One of the things that Dr. Joseph Murphy talks about in that book is effective prayer. And
Uh-oh.
if you're going to do prayer in an effective way, you would have
Okay.
to be quiet.
We going somewhere. Now, what does it mean to pray?
Well, I don't have a definition. You could let us know. But my point is, if a person wants to effectively pray, they would need to be quiet and they would need to be still. And this is what is taught in the Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds real good to me, man. How's it looking out there, man? You got any of your friends, man, you want to bring up, man, and kind of chop it up? I don't want to belabor the
Once
conversation.
once somebody comes on, we'll chat it up with them. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about how your journey has been transitioning from the military into the civilian world?
Well, the transition, as I remember, was not that of one that was so difficult. I think the biggest challenge was being able to not have to put on a uniform for all the many years and having to abide by certain rules and regulations and policy. Now that I am no longer active duty, I'm a civilian. And so my first day of, entering into the civilian world was almost like a rite of passage, if you think about it, right? Because I wanted to do the most rebellious thing I could possibly do. And I remember I went and brought a pair of army pants. I brought a navy blouse with the cracker jack, and I got some Marines, and I just kind of mixed all the branch of services, little uniforms up, and I'm walking around the base, with my chest stuck all out, and I found myself in a lot of trouble doing that. But the point in sharing that is that in my transition, man, I didn't expect one to have four children. I didn't expect to, travel the world at the pace and rate that I did, but I did expect myself to excel and do well, right? I think that along my development, the education, the exposure, and a lot of discipline and a lot of training, kind of helped me and prepared me for the military. So when I left, man, I wanted to take over the world, man. I wanted to really put my mark on society, creatively. And so it took a lot of time, a lot of effort. And even now, I'm still learning a lot of these things. But it was almost like, you had to get your ribbon for this, you had to get your ribbon for that. You understand? And so it was a lot of fun, but I'm most proud of serving in the United States Navy. I'm most proud of the sacrifices that was made. If I had an opportunity to learn from that, transitioning from military to civilian life, now being in television news and media, and having opportunities to be a part of documentaries and working with ESPN and blah 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 blah, all this wonderful great stuff. I always remember that my self-care, my mental health moment, even in the military, was that time alone, man, to think, right? To imagine, right? To create, to write. I love to write. I love poetry. I love writing spoken word and being creative in various areas. And so my transition was very fun. I worked for a uh, Navy public affairs out in Yokosuka, Japan, and I had an opportunity to be a news anchor. I had an opportunity to really, really work with international reporters from New Zealand to Australia, Japanese reporters. I was faced with a multicultural of people and experiences, and I think a lot of that played a role in how I see the world after the military and where I am today.
That's
That's
awesome, man.
like a short monologue and have the little chapters broken off in it.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah,
I
man.
think
So
there's a lot of our brothers out here who are going through similar type of transition as you just described. Obviously, in their own way, everyone's different.
yeah,
But I think that that's an important piece of some of our men's lives that they go from being that soldier or that sailor, that Coast Guardsman, that Marine,
right.
and they transition back into the civilian world. How do we do that? Right? We obviously we have programs like TAP, Transition Assistance Program,
But see,
but for many of us,
people, I think one of the biggest mistakes, and you can correlate this with the conversation. One of our biggest mistakes is that we don't utilize the tools that are made available for us. So when I was getting out, I was, hey man, I'm good, I'm healthy. But wait a minute, continue your medical checkup screenings, continue your dental appointments, go to the VA, go to the hospital, continue the work that you were doing weren't paying for those dental appointments, right? You wasn't paying for them surgeries, that physical therapy, right? So I just think, man, sometimes, man, we hear these narratives where the military don't take care of the men and their families. Man, sometimes, man, we don't get in the right position and get the material and the information that we need to do the things that we're supposed to do. Do you
agreed.
find it common?
Well, I've seen it. I've seen both sides. I've
Okay,
seen a lot of brothers who are out here getting their benefits, being smart about it,
right,
using that to better their family. And then
right.
I've seen some who have done, who haven't done that. So it's both sides. But I'm happy for the brothers who do, for the ones who did serve in the military and they got those benefits and they're doing something positive with it, they're taking care of their family. That's what it's all about, because if you put in that kind of service, obviously a bunch of us who put in the service, we see things nobody else gets to see,
Mhm.
and if you got to put your mind through that for the rest of your life, you know, in my opinion, you should be doing something wise with those benefits, with those education benefits and whatever other benefits that are out there, right? But that's, in my opinion, this is all a part of being a real man. Is being responsible with,
There you go. Being responsible.
is being responsible with your resources that you have, and being smart about it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go off script a little bit. I'm gonna go off script a little bit.
All right.
Um, I notice that you post a lot of Kevin Samuels content on your Facebook page.
Sure.
Uh,
As of late, yes.
so I'm curious to know what your thoughts are, whether it's positive, negative impact, or is it just some guy on the internet that you found interesting to share his thoughts and his opinions and views? Because what is high value? We haven't been down that rodeo, but why do you share that, and what is the ultimate impact you're trying to make with a Kevin Samuels who's either popular on one side of the conversation or not?
This is how I share content. I focus on absolute truth, right? So there's some things that I'll post and I have like these emoji codes, right? So
Uh,
some things I'll post and I'll put like 3 ears. Then other things I'll put 3 ears, a bullseye, and 3 more ears, right? So these are like my own codes of stuff that I believe to be true or I know to be true, and then other things I think people should take a look at and they should draw some conclusions from whatever it is that they find. Now, when it comes down to Kevin Samuels, part of the reason why I post his videos is because he's exposing some things that most of our community is scared to talk about. And these are things that need to be shown. The people need to see the behavior that is going on. I'm not sure if the Kevin Samuels videos are entertainment or if these were real phone calls or not.
stop,
But
man. Stop. You work.
hold on, 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 hold on. But a bunch of the behavior that I've seen on these videos, these are behaviors that I've seen as a man over and over again in my personal reality. So I've never posted something just because I thought, oh, this is dope. Kevin Samuels did that. No, I'm posting these things because I saw this behavior and there was no one willing to listen when I was telling them about it.
Oh, okay. I think that's weird. You ask me. I don't,
What
I
part?
mean, just the whole idea of the internet, and I don't know. Because then you find gentlemen that go into the red pill, the blue pill, all of these manospheres, and everybody popping pills to find out where they fit in relationships and ideologies. And I just think that we're doing too much. I mean, to me, my personal opinion about a lot of the stuff that happens in dating conversations, the Kevin Samuels and all that kind of stuff, um, I think it's stupid to me because ain't no one gonna tell you how to do anything and know about anything but yourself. And I think a lot of that stuff is just for entertainment purposes. I don't find any great value in listening to a man that dresses up men uh, talk about women and what man. I mean, where have we gone too far that we will take a talking head and listen to what a talking head has to say and not the elders in your own community, not the fathers in your home? You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to knock all the little Kevin Samuel mini mics and the followers and all that kind of thing. The man, rest in peace, has gone on and left the planet Earth. But I was just curious because I was on fan base today, for a minute in some conversation, and the conversation kept coming up. And so it's not that we shouldn't or we should do listen to this one or that one. But I just found that we're taking advice from a lot of wrong places, a lot of weird places, and a lot of places that don't benefit us. It just entertains us. So
Well, I think you got some good points in there. I think you got some good points in there. I would say this when it comes down to me,
mhm,
I'm one of the more well-read people on the earth,
on Earth,
and absolutely, just in the last 5 years, I've read at least 500 books. Um,
500 books. Tell me the first book you
so
read and the last book you
before we even get into that, what I like to address is this. I definitely respect your opinion on Kevin Samuels. Not everybody subscribes to what he talks about or the types of videos that he's put out. But the things that I focus on are absolute truth.
read.
And
What's
now
tell
and
me
then
one absolute truth that
and
comes
then
out
on
of his mouth. Tell me one absolute truth.
and then on occasion I focus on relative truths to expose a point, right? So I
Okay.
don't focus on relative truths on a regular basis. I focus on absolute truth. But when
Mhm.
relative truths show their face, they help to expose different types of behaviors that need to be changed, right? So
Saying,
what was your question though?
so what I'm hearing is your worldview, or many. Let's take it off of you, and let's take it off of you. Some men's worldview and how they may see themselves or how they may learn about themselves comes from the internet. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I would say that there are people out there who that's primarily what their worldview is because that's what they're ingesting the most of, you know. So
So
if you what you ingest, you become.
if we're talking about
If you ingest it too much, sorry for cutting you off.
if we're talking about manhood and fatherhood and being leaders in our home and being an example, if I was a child and all I saw was my father taking his cues from BET, taking all his cues from Lil Uzi and Lil Woodsy, if I saw my father spending so much time trying to look like a rapper, a basketball player, or a football player, how do you think that would affect my self-esteem or your self-esteem or that little man's self-esteem when daddy is still looking for himself?
All you gotta do is look at melanation to answer that question. Because
Man,
there's a lot of people out here who have been living exactly how you just explained. And because they've been getting their cues from CNN or getting their cues from BET or MySpace or wherever, you know, they've created a certain type of persona in their home that is not familiar. You know, one of the things you talked about a episode or two ago was about things that you're doing for your son should be familiar. It should be things that are familiar of what your dad did, right? Or think, you know, how he dressed, how he talked, how he walked, how he made decisions, you know, in
right,
righteousness and things of that nature, right?
right.
So you got a lot of people right now who are making decisions based upon something else,
Right.
you know, because they not that they didn't have exposure to the father, but one of the things that we got to keep in mind too, man, is we got to live in the reality that our neighborhoods, our people have been poisoned. Like these are things that we leave off of the conversation, and we're consistently talking about how people need to improve and all that. We got to live in the reality that poison was thrown into our neighborhoods
Uh,
while the factories were being closed while the factories were being closed down. It wasn't just a situation of that people just gravitated to selling
uh,
drugs and all this other kind of stuff. We had spiritual systematic warfare that's been waged on our community, that's still being waged on our people to this day. So
okay.
the behavior that we may want to get out of our people, we also have to help create awareness to our people that there are these problems that are happening that they might not know about, that might be making it very difficult for them to make whatever types of improvements, to watch different things on entertainment, you know, to read various books.
I agree. I think that's good. I think that's good. But I'm gonna keep it a buck with you, man. We having a conversation and we got an idea. I get tired of hearing these whiny, pansy Negroes and black men whining and complaining about what somebody did, poisoned me, did all this stuff. Brother, it's 2024. Okay. Everything that you know well to do, how to do, it's accessible, right? You mentioned earlier in books, building relationships, finding things in community. I just it makes the back of my lock itch when I keep
Yeah,
hearing
but you're
these.
discounting you're
No, no,
discounting the
I
balance that
heard,
I
I
told you
heard
that I'm
your
in.
perspective. I heard your perspective. I want you to understand where I'm speaking from. This is not an attack on your opinion. This is an expression from what I experienced through my lens. Right. So what I'm speaking from is that we have to stop making all these excuses and this whining pansy stuff. What are you doing now? Like you mentioned, when are we going to make a decision to come up with some solutions, get some information, get the help we need? Because we keep blaming things on white people. We keep blaming things on orange people, green people, orange. Man, listen, you made it a choice to impregnate that woman, to have that child, and then blame the government for putting you out of the home. Why didn't you just marry the woman? Well, we don't do that. We don't talk about healthy relationships and making good decisions. We celebrate the debauchery, like when I tagged you in Facebook earlier today, right? Where now R&B trying to get the booty back. All we want to talk about is our phallus, how many women we humped on, how many men we winked at. Get where I'm going? So we got to just make up in our mind that we can't save all of Black America, all of melanated people. If you don't save what's going on between your ears and deal with your mind and deal with what you're responsible for, deal with what looks like you first, right? I'm not saying be an individualist. I'm saying take care of what you're responsible for so that what you're doing mirrors in your community, right? And you start to grow healthy, strong families instead of blaming everything on a bunch of things that you made bad choices and decisions. And some of these people, in my opinion, are simply lifetime failures. Now, hear what I'm saying. How convenient is it that you have access to so much information, twice, 3 times, 4 more information than our family, our ancestors, our fathers and mothers, and we keep blaming everything on the white man? But
That's a great question. That's a great question. Yeah.
Issues don't exist. I'm not foolish to say that there are systemic things in place. But what I'm saying is we got too many commentators, too many spectators, too many agitators, and nobody want to shut their mouth and get their hands dirty and do the work. We have too many social media justice warriors taking pictures, running around trying to be seen, and then trying to smudge data to make it look like they doing something. We got to keep it a buck. In order for a community to grow, we got to be honest with the condition, true, but we got to do something.
We have been doing something for decades, but I don't think the vast majority of people really understand the problem. Because if we're sitting here saying that, hey, we just got to stand up and we just got to do for ourselves, that's not how it works.
Well, that's not what
That's
I'm
not
saying.
that's not. But let me finish. That's not how it works when you have a large group of people suffering from mental health issues. No, that it takes generations to make those changes.
You're missing my point. I'm empathetic to that. That's a no-brainer. Folks that got mental health issues, folks that are in pot, folks that have different things that going on that you cannot help. That's a no-brainer. I am talking about the professional victim, the one that has a uniform, right? They're constantly blaming everything except taking responsibility for the choices and the decisions that many of us have made. So I've been a professional victim. I'm not exempt from this conversation. I'm just basically saying to you and saying to somebody who even cares about what we're talking about is that we have everything we need and more to be successful.
I agree.
And to your point, yes, there's mental health concerns. Yes, there's systemic concerns. Yes, there's a lot of things that concern. But when are we going to build a system, as you are embarking on, within a system and lead your family first?
There's many brothers out here who are doing that, but the reality is we're talking. The reality is we're talking.
Saying they're not. Come on, brother. Walk with me. We're having a conversation. And I'm giving you an idea that's distinctly different. But I'm saying I'm only speaking to one segment of the conversation. And those are those who take advantage. We need to start addressing those, as well as we're celebrating those who've done great and doing wonderful things. But come on, bro. Hypocrisy breeds rebellion. Many of us have been hypocrites. I've been a hypocrite. How dare I sit here and say these things and share these things and not hold my own self accountable? This is what manhood looks like, right? Since we're having a conversation, you know what I mean? Let's light it up in here, man. Get some folks engaged in this dialogue. Let's look down here and see if anybody want to come up here and talk to us. Let's get it going. Let's get
Send
it going.
send them the link.
Yeah. So
But I think that there are a lot of excuses. I think there's a lot of victimization. I think there's a lot of these issues out there. But again, like I'm working in holistic health, right? So I'm dealing with people with these diseases in every which way, shape, and form. Brain diseases, body diseases, all kinds of diseases. And the reality that I'm trying to help a lot of people understand is I'm not, when I say mental health issues and people, I'm not talking about the ones that are at the psych ward. I'm talking about the ones that's wearing the uniforms that you're talking about.
yeah,
Because, in my opinion, at least 99% of every person in
yeah,
civilized societies are dealing with mental health issues because at the end
absolutely.
of the day they can't even pronounce half of the ingredients that's in the food that they eat, right? And what is that? A lot of the times it's poison, right? Well, if you're eating poison on a consistent basis, you're probably going to have trouble making decisions that make sense along
Okay,
the lines of group economics, along the
okay,
lines of doing right by your family and all that kind of stuff.
okay. Well, let's talk about poisoning. Let's break that poison down. Let's take that poison to the next level, right?
Sure.
As you mentioned, which is a legitimate point to make. The poison in our entertainment, we seem to not want to touch that. We'll leave that to the church folk. We'll leave that to the judgers, the trollers. But there's a lot of poison that we consume consistently and we justify it, right? And so
Agreed.
when you start talking about some of the things that we consume in terms of entertainment for pleasure and not understanding the detriment and the science, as you mentioned, the metaphysics, as you mentioned, uh, and how things affect us, I agree there needs to be more education. I agree with everything that is necessary for the advancement of people, community, families, men, women, boy, child, whatever you may describe, right? But I just think that we have to really have honest, balanced conversations. And too often we
Yeah.
lean to one side and then we lean to the other side and we complain about Donald Trump, but you don't even know who the mayor is in your city. You ain't been to a city council meeting. You ain't never voted in your local state elections. You don't know who your state delegate is. You don't know how a bill becomes a law, but you running down there and voting for Donald Trump and all this other stuff, or voting for this one, or you see what I'm saying? And then
Hmm.
being at the polls. Let's talk about, let's have a real conversation about men and community. We go to the polls and we're told to black vote for everybody that's black, right? You don't know this person. You don't know their moral character. You don't know what they believe. You don't know how they live in their life. You don't know their contributions to the community. But you go down there and you check all the black folk, and then you get mad because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I say this, like many friends that I live with and know, and you know, if you got a problem with what's going on in your community, do something. Get on city council. This is how I was taught. This is how I was raised. Go get on the board and commission. Get involved in your community. We can sit at the keyboard. Black man, the white man, the green man, we don't have, we got no. You know what I'm saying? That stuff looks weird when you got the most influential people that look like us making millions and millions of dollars, shaking their behind, dribbling a basketball, making you laugh. You understand where I'm going with this conversation? I'm speaking
Absolutely.
to a people type, a mindset. You understand? Where we keep blaming, gaming, blaming, and we don't even acknowledge that, man, there are some wonderful brothers and sisters in our cities and our communities that are doing the thing, man. When
Facts.
I watch, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna land my plane. I love this conversation. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I understand where we need to go. When I was doing COVID, I interviewed Dorothy Cox. If I said her name correctly, my wife gets on me a lot because I got to work at it. But she was one of the first Black women that integrated into the white institutional school. Now, I'm on the phone doing a phone interview. She says this to me. She says, my family members, the community that I live in was full of doctors and lawyers. We were successful Black people. We had our own schools, educational system, but I wanted to do this. Her father refused her, was upset with her, but her family, her uncles, supported her and allowed her to go out there and make that historical mark, right? So we start talking about the protests in Portsmouth, Virginia, and we start talking about, how things may appear. This woman who was, I think she's like 80 something years old, she says, you know what? This is the greatest time that I've ever seen a culture of people caring for not just Black people, but caring for humanity, right? So all these jokers who buy into the propaganda, because every 4 years there's a race issue, a Black man gets shot, and then we go through this whole. So I just want to make some noise and really have these hard conversations and honest conversations. I'm only speaking from what I see in my lens, what I've experienced, what I've observed. I'm not trying to put this on no other person. I'm just sharing my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
We
with
get
it.
on here, we fluff too much. We do all this fluffing. There are young people that are looking at us, that are watching you, your children, my children, are watching us, watching how we react and respond to the world that we live in today. And are we going to stand and be consistent and practice what we're preaching and teaching, or are we just playing in our children's faces? Look at history now. Have we made it? I'm interested in Black future. I want to look at Black future and dead in his eyes and say, hey, you need to be celebrated. My father, your father, these brothers and sisters in our families and our communities. Yeah, I get it. We support Martin Luther King and all the historical people that made an impact. But come on, bro. There's some great brothers out here, man. We missing the mark. There's some great sisters doing some stuff, man. There's some young people that are going to Ivy League colleges that are making amazing grades in science and technology, and we're not talking about it. We're talking about hip hop. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
called conditioning.
Yeah.
It's called psychological conditioning. So at the end of the day, like the vast majority of people, they tune into, what is funny. They tune into what is, they tune into fights. They tune into
There's nothing
people
wrong.
doing all kinds of pranks on other people and then getting beat up on camera and stuff. And they just want to see all that. They want to see somebody get hit by a car. Well, the car was doing donuts and then the back end of the car smacked the other person. Like they love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And well, why? Right? Well, anytime that you have chaos within, lack, limitation, disaster within, what you consume on the outside is going to be the exact same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that 210%. There, there's a curriculum that I wanted to share some of the notes from, but I don't think for the sake of time we use called Arrested Development. And what it was, Ferdinand, and I think I sent you a copy of it, was basically giving some tools and perspectives to young men on that transition from what boys do, meaning boys causing problems, creating problems, where men solve problems. We're somewhere in the middle of that, and we got it there. Let's pull up to the first couple slides. I want to go through some of this real quickly for time's sake. All right. The stoppage of physical development, emotional development, or mental development before reaching adulthood. This is abnormal conditioning. Like we mentioned before, results with someone being stuck in a certain emotional or mental level of development and can be the reason why some adults act like children emotionally or mentally, right? Let's pull it up. Let's go to the next one. I just want to hit some of this stuff. Keep moving. Matter of fact, let's read that. Go ahead and read. Let's read that. Let's get into that real quick. Go back.
Boys are irresponsible. Men are
Go
responsible.
back.
A boy is not
The back one. One back. Yeah, right there.
arrested development. One of the great challenges that many African American boys face is the challenge of not having a father in the home to teach them how to be a man. This evening, we're going to discuss 5 things that African American fathers should teach their sons. This conversation will give us insight into the differences between how boys operate and how men operate. Knowing these differences will help African American women choose the best man to be in a relationship with.
Now, although I would agree with some of that, that's the standard conversation, right? Or do you disagree?
I think there's many conversations on this. I think this is one of them, definitely.
Cool. So let's go to let's do the next two slides, and we'll save the rest of it for later. Okay, I'll take this one. A boy is not responsible for himself. He needs others to take care of him. He needs others to provide for him. He needs others to discipline him. He needs others to motivate him, right? A man is responsible for himself. He takes care of others. He provides for others. He is self-disciplined. He is self-motivated. A man will also be responsible for all that he creates. Now, and I'm going to stop there, Ferdinand, because I'm not trying to say we got to be perfect. Man, I struggle in a lot of areas, but I don't quit and I don't stop. But this is just framework, thoughts, ideas, and a conversation between two brothers. Here it goes. What's the next couple of them, Ferdinand? For the quality, we're still reading the bottom. Go back. Okay. For the quality of his male-female relationship, for his children he's responsible for his family institution, for how he speaks, right? For how he presents himself to the world, for his word and his financial situations. They're basic stuff. These are things that our fathers would normally have conversations with, community leaders and elders would talk to us about, right? Last slide, because there's a lot of this stuff that, we do not really pay much attention to. So a boy will create problems for himself and for others. If a boy does not become a man, then he becomes an adult. He will continue to create problems for himself and others. So now you see people, grown men, who continuously creating problems, like you mentioned earlier, not having solutions. When trouble comes, they just run in the corner, cry. What am I gonna do? Somebody help. This woman is looking for you to lead, looking for you to make decisions, looking for you to step forward and graciously lead as a servant. Next final slide. Check this out. Before we go there, men solve problems, right? A man will develop solutions. He will create solutions for himself and for others. He will create solutions in his male-female relationships. You mentioned it, Ferdinand. Solution-based. How do I get better? How do I change? How do I do better? How do I, and not just say it's just me. This is how I am. How many times we hear that? This is how I am. Last slide, and we'll come back to this later. You got it, sir.
A boy has few commitments. A man has many commitments. Boys have a commitment to fun, consumption, and his sexual urges. Boys have a commitment to sexual promiscuity and disloyalty within male-female relationships. Boys have a commitment to stagnation. Men have a commitment to service, production, and to a woman. Men have a commitment to sexual discipline and loyalty within male-female relationships. Men have a commitment to personal refinement.
Now, how many times we along our journey to our manhood have we been and we see ourselves on one end or the other in our behavior? Oh, we don't want to talk about that. We want to point to what it's her fault. She did this. She. But you were irresponsible. You lied. You understand what I'm saying?
Only one domino can knock over the rest.
There you go. Have you been a victim of this?
I would say 100% correct.
Oh, yeah, right? I mean, right.
We're gonna be honest.
And this is why it's important when we passionately talk about these kinds of things. You better be a witness. We got to be a witness. And for the lack of how much time we got for us, brother? We make a slide one more in there. How much time we got for us?
We good.
Okay. This is one of my favorite ones. Boys are selfish. Men are selfless. Boys are consumers. Boys take take from others. Boys will not sacrifice for their children. Why? I mean, boys having children, right? Men are producers. Men give to others. Men will sacrifice for their children and, of course, for their family. Have we been guilty of this? Since we want to have real conversations. Yes. Sometimes we be so selfish. I mean, when I talk about selfish, I'm talking about you don't care about nobody. You see the wife struggling, trying to clean. You sitting there playing Xbox, big old bag of Cheetos on FaceTime, talking to some other joke about a video game. You 45 years old, man. So it's something that's happening in our development early on that reduces us to a 10-year-old little boy at 50 because somebody hurt your feelings, right?
Yeah, it's called trauma.
Yeah. So we got to have these real conversations. I ain't thinking about talking about a woman. I'm talking to men, young men. I am not, you go find you an old, wise, young woman to go talk to the young women and share what they need to share. We're here to have conversations to the men and the young men to deliver something to them that their fathers forgot, failed, or may not knew how to deliver. But it's our experiences. Shall we move on?
I think when it comes down to our experiences, a lot of it is our choice, right? A lot of it is us making poor decisions. But there are the factors that we need to bring in of many other things that are happening around us. The realities that we have to face is yes, there are a bunch of brothers who are making poor decisions. We got to face that. But we also got to face the reality that not everybody is as mentally strong as the next man. So
True.
if you put out 20, 25 different traps and barriers and hurdles and all these different things to knock these brothers down, yeah, there might be 5 out of the 5 million who
Right.
they run that race like it was nothing. They moonwalked right through it. But a
Right.
bunch of these other men might fall victim to some of these things that are going on. But there are traps that are being laid for us. And these are things that need to be considered.
Yes,
Not
sir.
saying you're not considering them, but I think that all men need to take the time to consider what's really happening out here because I don't think the vast majority of men are really noticing that systematic spiritual warfare is being waged upon them.
Man, that thing was waged from day one. From the
Yes,
God.
facts.
God. From the God. You know what I mean? And I find it interesting and when you hear the story or the way it's told when Adam and Eve, as it was written, was given a commandment. Both of them. But Eve, she could have ate up the whole freaking garden. It was not until this, as the story is told, that Adam wrapped his chops around the fruit or whatever it is that he was not supposed to eat. And then that's when God come looking for him. So when we talk about dysfunction, and although I agree to your point, we always want to blame everything on a woman. She did it.
I think there's a lot of men who do that, but I think
Yeah,
most of the men don't blame
yes,
women at all.
yeah. But I'm talking to a specific demographics because we don't talk enough to some of these things, and I believe that yourself and many other men that I interact with all the time. I got to keep good men around me. We got to keep good men around us so that our
Facts.
circles become stronger and there's more accountability, right? Unless you hurt my feelings, sometimes we just need to be popped across the back of the head, right? My dad said this one thing, man, and I love to refer to a lot of conversations, and I'm going to land my plane. He says, sometimes 99.9% of the people that you see every day are crazy. And he said, sometimes if you're not careful, you can fall into that 99 percentile of being crazy. Any
Facts.
given day, there's an imbalance, right? any given day that you open yourself up to be finangled, right? Your mind by what you're consuming, to your point, what you're eating, how you're taking care of your physical body, how you're maintaining your manhood. You know what I'm saying? These things are important. Uh,
Great.
important, man. So, pardon my rant, man. You and I had a long day today, bro, and I just wanted to have a real heart to heart conversation, uh, and just engage. You know.
I think it's necessary to have these kind of conversations. We need to touch it. We need to talk about what's a problem, how to fix it, all of that,
Yeah.
because we grow, we grow together, right? This game that we're playing, this thing we call life, this is an individual game. Make no mistake about it, but it is group economics as well, and that is where we need to improve. Right? And how we improve in group economics is by living in the reality of what the actual problems are. We're not able to be strong in group economics by ignoring the problems. We have to face the problems and then we have to work through them together. We have to, just like what we're doing in this conversation. You and I, we're having a conversation. We're going back and forth, and you saying certain things. I'm responding. I'm saying certain things. You responding, and we both helping each other grow. Like Chip said the other day, this is a build, you know?
Yeah.
So we need to
Yeah.
have more build conversations with the other brothers out here. And
Yeah.
there might be something that I'm doing that I'm not even conscious of. That's a
Right.
problem. That's a detriment to myself. It's not even causing nobody else issues, it's just causing me a problem. And one of my brothers would be like, "Hey man, come here. Let me tell you something real quick, man. Tighten up on this right here. You'll earn $100,000 more if you do this. You'll have 5 extra free hours every week if you do this. You'll have a better relationship with your wife if you do this, right? But I wouldn't have been able to get that lesson unless I had a relationship with my brother. So we need to have a relationship between all of the brothers. All of the brothers needs to be on one major mastermind.
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree. And the beautiful thing about brotherhood is that it's long lasting. It's forever. You know, because relationships are important, and we don't invest enough of ourselves in the idea that the relationship is there's
Yeah.
an exchange, right? And if you're not servicing me in the manner of my growth and development, but I keep servicing you in your growth and development, at some point, frustration is going to set in, right?
Out of balance and reciprocity.
Yeah, yeah. So this conversation is the yin and the yang,
Yeah.
right? And if you're man enough to understand and to really hear what is being said, then it should be warfare. It should be war right now. There's a war going on in your members. You're wrestling, trying to figure this thing out because you got bad examples and you're not saying the right things. You're not submitting to the authority that's greater than you. And that's the Most High God. That's the way I see it. Whatever you believe, I know what I believe, right? And so we get here, and now what do? We got healthy eating. We got a beautiful family, right? We're doing great. So what does it stop? Now it's time to go. You should have been feeding the homeless. You should have been tending to those in need, right? But sometimes we make it to the mountaintop just to look down on everybody. You know what I'm saying? We make it to the mountaintop because that was the ultimate goal, is to get to the top of the mountain. When the goal should have been is take as many people you possibly can with you and leave people that will replace those that may not come back. You're building nations. And the problem I
Here's
find, we want to hold on too long for recognition. You know, you know how to go. So
there's an African proverb. It goes like this:
yeah.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go
Uh-oh.
far, go together.
Uh-oh. I like
You
that.
know, these are
I
the
love
things that we've got to think about as we move forward in life. You were talking about the political journey a little while ago, and about how we handle ourselves at the polls, and how we vote and things of that nature. And it doesn't really matter how we vote because at the end of the day, without the proper stance, the proper standing together in group economics, it doesn't matter how we vote. Whoever is in office is never going to do the things that they've given their word to do as long as we don't have strong group economics. That means we got to be strong together. And that's long before we go to the polls and vote for anybody. And it doesn't even matter who we vote for at that point. If we have strong group economics, they're going to fulfill whatever it is they promise to us at that point. Because if we move as one. This is how various other ethnic groups in America move right now. And with a lesser population of people, they have a stronger fist than we do
Who's that?
economically.
Who?
I would say certain groups of Asians,
Man, I ain't think about no.
definitely.
I ain't think about nothing about man.
Regardless, my point is real simple. When it comes down to group economics, I ain't talking about who could win in a heavyweight boxing match. No, I'm talking about group economics. When it comes down to getting
See,
these politicians,
see, first,
when it comes down to getting these politicians to do what it is that they given their word to do, there are groups of people out here who are strong enough in group economics where they can get the
where,
politicians to do what they're giving their
where?
word to do. One
So
of those groups is called LGBT.
I don't even recognize them. Give me some. We're not talking
I,
about
I
LGBT.
just
We're
I
talking
just gave
about
you two
black
or three
people,
different groups.
as you mentioned, people of color, melanated people. This is what we're talking about. I ain't talking about the LGBTs. I'm not talking about none of that. That's Are you LGBT? I'm not
The point
LGBT.
the point that I'm making
We're
is
talking
about
about is
group economics.
group economics, right?
Group
Where is that
economics.
demonstrated at right now? Group economics.
You said where's the industry?
Where is it demonstrated at?
I would say certain Asian ethnic groups in America are demonstrating group economics very well.
You don't see it in the United States anyway?
You said what?
You see it in America? You
Yeah, that's what I just said. Certain Asian ethnic groups in America are
said Asian.
demonstrating group economics very well, and they have been for decades.
You
This is
said
well
Asian.
known.
You said
Yes,
Asian. I'm not
yes,
talking about.
certain
Talking about
Asian
talking about the people you talking about right now. Show me, tell me, where do you see group economics working at in our communities in the United States
I,
specifically?
my whole conversation has been about how group economics is not even a thing in the melanated
Where
community.
do you see it, sir?
I just told you throughout the whole conversation that we're not strong in group economics. So what do you mean?
What
Where
are
do
you
I
talking
see it?
about? How you
I'm
know that?
not gonna see it if we're not strong in it.
You have group economics in your family, in your home? Do you see it
I'm
every day when you go
institute.
home to
I'm,
your babies? Do you see
I'm
group economics?
instituting.
I'm trolling, brother. I'm having a good time. It's okay.
I'm instituting group economics in my home. But when you
Okay.
talk, you were asking about the melanated community as a whole. I would imagine you're talking about America, right?
Talk about the collective. I'm the wrong person to be sitting here trying to be Captain Save every black person if I can't save the ones and take care of my responsibilities. Because if I fail at home, I will not succeed for the multitude of people. Because the example that I set must start where I plant my feet. That's what I believe. That's what I found it works. I watched the Father demonstrate it. It can be done. We all don't have to put on a cape and fly from city to city, dropping Easter eggs on top of people and dropping all this science. And people got mental health issues, as you mentioned. People need to be healed, as you mentioned. But we got some great ideas and we excited. And you wonder why people can't stick together. We think it's because of ego. We think it's because of the crab in the barrel mentality. But I'll tell you what it is. You minding everybody else's business but your own. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think that is part of the problem. But at the end of the day, the problem is always going to go back to what makes a person what they are. And that's always going to be the six keys of life. That's nutrition, water intake, sunlight intake, exercise, sleep, and goals.
Teach
So
that
if a
again, sir.
person is
Teach
out,
that again, sir.
if a person is out of balance in those spaces, then you're going to see them making decisions that don't make much sense. You're going to
Yes.
see them stealing from people, robbing people. You're going to
Right.
see murders. You're going to see, social media craziness. This is all going to happen if you got people who are living out of balance. The vast majority of people, in my opinion, are living out of balance and they don't even know it. So that
Right.
makes it even worse. That creates
Right.
a whole new normal. And that whole new normal doesn't actually make any sense. But because it makes enough sense to enough people, then it becomes the new normal. So these are the types of things that we're dealing with right now. And yes, people should stand up and just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to do right. I'm just going to do different. But that's not realistic. We
Yeah,
have
it
to
is.
live in the reality of what,
It is.
like, what your dad did. I respect what my this let me finish. What my dad did, I respect. Right, what other people's dads did, I respect. But the reality is, they came from a generation where they weren't having these types of problems we're dealing with right now. Not even close. A whole bunch of my daddy's family members and the generation before them, they grew their food. They lived out in the country. They built their houses. They did all of these things that would keep you massively healthy and provide a certain level of fulfillment. But in our society today, the vast majority of people don't live that way anymore. So now there's different types of problems that they don't understand. And then those problems that they don't understand is going to lead to a point where we're going to have these kind of conversations. Hey, they should just stand up and they should just do right. And that ain't realistic. That's not how this works.
Okay, so let me say this. Let me say this. It's realistic to Teton Lawan Moffitt. Here's why. Here's why. Here's why it's realistic to me. Because I'm talking about personal responsibility first. I'm talking about being accountable for your actions and your behaviors, right? I'm talking about taking care of those things that look like you before you run out here and try to save and fix everything and have all these wonderful ideas of healing the world when you're broken.
Agreed.
And I'm talking about me, brother. What I'm projecting into this conversation is my life, bro. The
Gotcha.
mistakes, the bad choices, decisions I made. I made those choices. I didn't put it on nobody else but me. So this is what I'm saying. It works for Teton. I'm not speaking for every black man that's listening to the sound of my voice. I'm not speaking for you. I'm not speaking for you. I'm not speaking for my brother. I'm speaking for Teton and what he's seen, what he's experienced, what he's learned. And that's why I speak with conviction and passion and truth. Because I don't care about nothing else at this moment in this conversation. That doesn't mean I don't care about people. That don't mean I don't care about solving problems. That don't mean I don't care. It means that I'm not focused. I gotta create right now. I gotta build, and I gotta sustain what I have, and do it gracefully, do it diligently, be committed to it, even when I make mistakes. So we got to have that killer instinct that we talk about in sports. Everybody can't be Kobe, sir. Everybody can't be Michael, sir. You got to have to be LeBron, all on the Instagram, always got something to say, always want to be seen and heard. Get your behind in the gym and play the game. Stop blaming everything on women. Stop blaming everything on white people. Stop blaming things on we got too many excuses when we watch men and women in the city of Hampton, Virginia, build community centers, create opportunities. We watch men and women in other cities in Portsmouth, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. Come on, man, what we talking about? All we need is a will and a way and a made up mind and a committed heart. We got to talk real stuff, man. I can't
I
be
think the
punching.
maturity.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
think I think the maturity level that you're at. I think that that's a level that more of our people need to get to. They need to get to that space where they say, "Listen, these things I did them. I did that. I did this. I made that decision." Yes, we need to get there, right? But let's think about how you got there. There was some fasting that happened. There was some letting go of things that happened. There was a process
There
that
was some
happened for you to
repentance.
get there.
There was some repentance. There's some
All of
forgiveness.
that.
There's some self-reflection. There's some humble, some humility. You see what I'm saying? We don't want to, and I'm not speaking, I'm communicating my life, my experiences, my journey. I am not giving men directives. I'm not giving you directives. I'm not giving nobody else directives. I'm telling you how I got to this place doing what I knew to do. And I couldn't do it by myself. And that's another problem that I think that we see in our own personal lives, where we try to play God or be God and refuse the help of others who really want to help us. But we find it convenient to make excuses to why you cannot do the things, the small things, like be at work on time, smile, be kind, say excuse me. You see what I'm saying? Oh no, they look
Sure.
at me 'cause I'm a black man. I was in the elevator in Norfolk State. I went to my daughter's college, my sister's graduation, and there's this elevator, and there were three white women, older white women, and just the rest of the people that were attending the event. There's some Asian folks, but it was just people of color, melanated people, as you mentioned. And the elevator is very small. And so the idea was, let these women get in this elevator and we'll catch the next one. Well, no, they ain't want to get, they ain't want us in the elevator because, because we black. What? What are we talking about? Where's your mind at? Do you really think that they were thinking about you because of the pigmentation in your skin? They weren't thinking about you. They were trying to get in this little tiny bitty elevator that only fit 3 people and 6 people standing outside the elevator trying to get in. So we paint these pictures. We go around and paint all these pictures. I want to be like Jay-Z because Jay-Z said it. I want to be like Little Yazzie because Little Yazzie said, I want to be like, man, come on, bro. I'm getting my little bootsy on right now, so pardon my French. But this is weird to me, bro.
It's weird to me too, man. I just understand it.
I understand it, but enough is enough.
I agree. We all need to improve, and
Yeah,
then the ones who are failing obviously have a lot of work to do. But I would say that brothers like yourself and myself, our jobs in this day and age is to be a lighthouse because we're winning on a consistent basis. We find a way to win, no matter how hard it is, no matter how crazy the odds are. We find a way to win. That's just what we do, right? But what comes with that is a cup that overflows. And what we've got to start doing is finding creative and sustainable ways to make sure these blessings are being filtered into our community.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. We on the same train, brother. I'm just hanging out the window a
Yeah.
little bit further than you are. That's all.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to brother Farrakhan. Right, you appreciate the comments. Got some great comments. Want to give a shout out to
Yeah,
brother McNeil over there. Some great
you still
comments.
feeling?
Want to give a big shout out to brother Taharka Bay. So got some
Oh,
great
come
comments out there. Thank y'all for tuning in. Really appreciate every one of y'all out there. Y'all, hey, listen, this is for the brothers. Okay,
we just talk.
what we're doing here. We're focused on helping our people rise, helping uplift fallen humanity, right? And we're going to do this one day at a time, and we're going to do it together. One step at a time, we're going to do it together. All right, y'all keep rocking with us, right? The brother Teton, he waking us up. He
Oh,
waking us up, y'all.
pardon me though. I don't want to be misunderstood in this dialogue. It's just, you know, we're really having a conversation, and this is how I am. And he'll tell you, we like this on the phone. We're not fighting. We're not arguing. We're excited about what we believe. We speak from unique perspectives. But I care about my community. I care about my family. I care about our society. I care about people. Don't get it twisted. Those who know, don't get it twisted. But I think there's a lot of value when we be really, really authentic to our life experience and stop swinging on goalposts that we wasn't even what didn't even pay to get in the game to see. Sometimes we move the goalposts for comfortability and a lack of accountability. You know, so we need disruptors, we need healers, we need people that's going to speak boldly, but we also need people that's going to continue to do what is right, and the balance that my brother said. You got to have some folks that are going to be tearing up the city. You got to have some folks that are going to scream aloud and let their voice be heard. So, Ferdinand, I enjoy it, man. This is dope. We came alive because earlier, boy, I thought I was at a Presbyterian church. I'm kidding. I'm like, man, where the people at, man? Let's get in this conversation, man. Let's come alive. Let's wake up. Let's wake it up and really
Well,
talk.
it's still new. It's still new, and there's we're definitely gonna have guests on the show, but everybody's still getting used to our time slot. Because keep in mind, we were supposed to be on at 7 p.m. today, but our meeting ran a little long. So a bunch of our audience, who wanted to come on and talk,
Yeah, nice.
they was available between 7 and 8. So it's all good. We're gonna be able to start at 7 on most days, unless obviously we got something going on, and we'll let everybody know ahead of time. But we want to really thank all the brothers. We want to thank everybody who tuned in. Really appreciate y'all. We're live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. All right, so y'all check us out. Drop some comments. Send the conversations to brothers that you feel like need the message, right? Because this is about uplifting our people. This is about uplifting melanation. This is about uplifting mankind. All right. This is our job as leaders, to stand up and notice a problem and provide a solution, right? So this platform is for that, right? So let's go ahead and let's blow this thing up, and let's help our people heal, and let's do it together.
And how we will find out more information about healthy eating, healthy living, we got to go to Roots. What is it? Roots Biz? What is it called?
So
I got it's difficult because I got to look at the camera and my screen is over here. I ain't got my glasses, so everything looking kind of, yeah.
So for anyone who may be dealing with any type of health issues, and you'd like to have remission of those diseases, every disease that's in existence, Root Tribes has the solution to. Roottribes.com is the solution to whole health. So check us out. Come to the website. You want to ask any kind of questions, you need some help with something, you need a little bit of guidance, hit our contact section, and I personally will respond with the answer.
My man, I appreciate you, sir. You're always a jewel, man, and it's always fun talking with you, man. I remember the
I
first time we
appreciate you.
met, so keep doing what you're doing, be empowered, man, be encouraged. People, places, and experiences, man. I don't want to trade them for nothing. Nothing.
Facts.
I enjoy this life.
Priceless.
Peace
Priceless.
and love.
Absolutely. Peace and love. Y'all stay up. Hey, Tuesday, 7 p.m. We're gonna be back. All right. Hey, and our next topic. All right, here we come. Our next topic. We talking about discipline in the phallus and why.
Uh-oh.
Y'all tune in on Tuesday, 7 p.m. We coming.
Okay. Peace and love,
Yo,
man.
Diddy.
And shout out my lovely wife, Shayna, my lovely kids, my family, my friends. Peace and love to all y'all, man. And we gonna get it going. Much love.
Shout out to your family. Shout out to mine. Peace and love to everybody.